It is now time for our 30-lap main event for our NASCAR Street Stocks. Good to have these guys back. Finished last year with a ton of drama, ton of excitement too. Worked out really well for which is now the number one car of our champion, Ted Lindgren. He's got a sweet new sponsor. We'll talk about that, but some pretty cool stuff coming up.
Well, you're right. And that championship last year came down to the last lap, last corner of that very last race, and it changed the whole thing. And Lindgren won a championship that he, strongly deserved. But he's back with a vengeance, and that car is sweet.
It really is nice. We kind of took a look through the pits as we walk around the pits before the start of the race, and the craftsmanship that is on display in these things is just outstanding. So before we get started with the lineup, I want to remind you this segment is brought to you by Central Welding Supply. Central Welding Supply's mission of excellent service hasn't changed since 1975. They're a locally owned family business providing gases, safety, and welding supplies. Central Welding Supply's expert staff makes the difference. Find their 25 locations in the local area at centralwelding.com. So thank you to those guys. They've been a big part of this racetrack for many, many years. Let's bring you the lineup for our 30-lap feature for our NASCAR Street Stocks. In the number 30 car on the front row will be Jeff Miller, and outside of Jeff, in the number 4 car will be Jeff Hubbard. Then we'll go back to another Hubbard in the 14. You'll kind of see a pattern here with these Hubbards. The Cullen Hubbard in the 14, and Sheridan Vincent in the 43. And Sheridan brought to you by MTV Motorsports.
In the third row, it's the Beecher Motorsports car, 45 car, driven by Nick Beecher. Outside of him, in the 44 car, is a man who had that championship almost in his hands and lost it, Mike Marthaler. In row 4, it's Mark Hubbard in the 41 car. Outside of him, from Arlington in the Cheyenne Scale Company car, the 28 of Davey Lund.
In the 19 is Jake Grant in car number 1 with a new sponsor, Emerald City Harley-Davidson. Therefore, it now has the number 1 on the side, which Tom and I both agree champions should do. Good job, Ted. In next row back, Calvin Miller in the number 49, Cale Chest in the 23K.
The 7th row, it's a 16 car, all about transmissions of Scott Perkins. Outside of Scott, in the 22 car, it's Kenny Erickson. In the 8th and final row, it's a 17 car of Madison Vukov. And outside of Madison, in the 85 car, it's Jim Fody.
And we are so thankful for all these drivers to be in this race. You're going to see a shot coming up here as we get ready to fire this thing off. Again, 30 laps to go. Our Speedway Chevrolet Camaro pace car is out. We'll put these guys on the 3/8. And at this point in the night, a little bit of moisture on the ground, which has really got to be messing with some heads out there.
You're right. You could see the lights that just went out on that pace car reflecting off of that water on the ground. And I think some of these drivers are thinking, oh, no, first race, beautiful race car, rain.
Yeah, it wasn't quite in their plans, but these guys are pretty good. We want to throw a special mention to our honorary starter for this race, and a guy I want to thank personally, Sam Lowe, who's a part of the Snohomish County Council, who was instrumental in helping me several times get this 75-pound platform backdrop up. So thanks, Sam. There he is right there. Nice job. Got that flag wave down, and we are underway. 30 laps for our NASCAR Street Stocks.
And Sam, who's up for re-election, and remember that when we get to that time of the year, he's a guy who supports the Speedway each and every week, and we need to take very, very good care of him. But as you can see, it's the 30 car of Jeff Miller. In the second spot is the number 4 car of Jeff Hubbard. Mark Hubbard's brother, has been out of the race car for over 23 years. Way back when I was here, he won, I believe, 3 Bomber championships at that time, then moved into the late models, was the Rookie of the Year, and then won a championship and kind of walked away from the sport. And I'm not exactly certain what happened, but I guess you never walk away from racing. No. Here he is, back in the car.
And we're getting through the first lap. There's a good shot of the number 19 or 18 car there. 19 car of Jake Grant, but up front, still hanging in there, the number 30 of Jeff Miller with Dave Lund in that gorgeous silver hybrid Camaro with the 69 Camaro sides and rear end and the 2017 Camaro. That's going to make a cool looking model someday, won't it?
Yeah, I never know who's going to do it. It was interesting here because a couple of the people that I mentioned that night kind of wanted to go to what I call the Galen Stewart position on the racetrack, groove, I guess.
Yeah.
Up high. Galen was one of the first to figure out when it rains really hard at Evergreen Speedway, the rain runs downhill, and so he went uphill, and they did it. And here they were trying to kind of run halfway through, but Miller on the bottom doing a great job. And you can see one of the Hubbard cars, and there's 3 Hubbard cars out there, so some good action going on.
You know, it's kind of weird. Every time I think of the word groove, I think of Galen Stewart, and longtime competitor in back in the day, what we used to call the Bombers, and then he moved up and did some pretty cool stuff in the late model division as the years went by. Now, heavily involved with the Northwest Focus Midgets, and it's just made that into.
And we're talking about back in the Bomber days when it was an A, B, C, and D main event fairly regularly. But you look right there, there's the 41 car of Hubbard, and then right behind him is Ted Lindgren in that number 1 car. Some really sharp looking race cars.
Yeah, and I hope that we get to the point where we can do the fan heels down at the bottom of the racetrack and get down there and take a look at some of these things. And the number 1 car at Ted Lindgren would be a perfect one. And Dave Lund's number 28. In fact, all these cars are just so well put together and so much attention to detail. I mean, that number 30 of Miller there, that thing is just incredible. It's so cool to see the different body styles. It's not now, thankfully, not an all Camaro class.
And that 30 car kind of has a little bit of a Richard Petty as throwback look to it today. But right now, the 28 car of Dave Lund out front, this thing well in hand.
Yes, he does. Mike Marthaler drastically slow up on the top stretch of the 3/8 there tonight. Did not go the way that Mike was hoping it would. Nick Beecher was another guy who kind of got through about halfway through this race. Didn't see it go off, but a couple of strong cars got off track. And let's go see what Jake Grant's got going on inside his car. Look at all the pipes.
You can see the roll cage off to his left. You see that little black skinny thing. That's the antenna to his radio. He has a spotter who's helping him from high up in the air. They can communicate back and forth. You can see he's got 2 gauges in his car, probably oil pressure, water temperature, and he also had a tack in that car.
Yeah, this is quite a battle midway in the race here. We've got 19 laps to go. Positions 6, 7, and 8 with the number 23 of Cale Cheth, the 85 of Jim Fody, the 30 of Jeff Miller, all having a great battle. Jim Fody, another cat that has just been out here for years and years. And I first met him when he was running back in the Extreme Contact Figure 8 days back in the late 90s and just has such a great time. He's another one of these guys that just comes out and has very little help, that kind of probably prefers it that way. And his brother was out there, I'm sure, giving him a hand. We talked to him.
I'm not sure that's help.
Oh, you're not?
Well, unless the fight breaks out. But Jim is one of those guys, he normally starts last. He requests to start back because he said, I came here to race people. I want to pass people. He won't spend the kind of money maybe to build a brand new race car to know that he can win. So he goes, hey, let's go to the back and have some fun and pass a lot of cars. Gotta like that.
Yeah, that's a good approach to it. It takes a lot of the pressure. I mean, how much pressure do we put on ourselves? And to be able to find a way to take that away. That's another sharp-looking car. The number 49 of Calvin Miller. I really dig that paint scheme that he's got on that one. Jake Grant did a nice job on his machine. Like I mentioned, these cars, they come out. We got an issue up on the top there. It's Jim Fody in the 85 and Cale Cheth in the 23 getting together. And hopefully we can get the 85 of Fody refired up just like that. He heard us, and thanks, Jim, for doing that. We'll bring it upstairs for a few seconds, but again, so impressed with the quality of race cars, especially this season in our NASCAR street stock division. And
as we've talked about before, we have the 2 Hubbard brothers, Jeff and Mark, and then Mark's son, Cullen, is also out there in another car. So the Hubbard family well represented each and every week here at Evergreen Speedway when the street stocks are out there, and it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes, I'm sure, but Jeff will shake that rust off after 23 years and be right back up front again.
It's amazing. And you can kind of also tell, kind of keeping on the Hubbard theme, the influence that Rick has in it, you know, and I've been in certain places where Rick has come in, and he doesn't know me from anybody, right? And just the to listen to him interact with other people, he is so comfortable around them, and you can the quality of the work and the craftsmanship that they put into any of those cars. They all have a 4 in it. Pick the one you want. And it's just really outstanding. I mean, look at that 41 there. I think it's just really a nice vehicle.
Yep,
and
right
the 14
behind, that's
right
his son
behind
right behind him, and,
yeah.
and his brother in the 4 car inside.
Yeah, so
So
lights
4,
are out.
14 and 41.
There it is. Lights are out on our Speedway Chevrolet pace car. I really am so looking forward to when you and I can have some quality time in that thing. Take people on a tour of this joint, which we're going to do later on this year.
And as you can see, Steve, they're not using the Arkansas or Delaware restart, depending on who you want to give credit to, where the leader's out front. We're 2x2 all the way through. And let's ride along with Ted Lindgren in his car. If you look inside there, you can see there's kind of a blue-gray thing. It's in darkness right now. That's his drink bottle holder. It's in the kind of lower left-hand part of the screen. You can see his tachometer there, and then of course the roll cage and the bars that are inside the car. Part of the ignition up there on the firewall.
Another thing that's kind of fascinating to see too, and a lot of these guys have it, is the extremely wide rear view mirrors in that. It so helps them out to see who's kind of any way they can try and figure out who is on their corner, who's looking inside, who's looking outside. But Ted hanging in there, good side shot of that number 41 car, Dave Lund's. Number 28 Camaro up in the lead, and pretty nice shots. Thanks to everybody who does send in their in-car footage, so we can include them on our shows.
And this is 2 good race car drivers.
It is
doing what they do best, having fun, running side by side, not bouncing off each other, not playing dirty with each other, just doing the best job they can. You know, right now you saw Hubbard dropped out of the picture, then he comes back into the picture. The spotter's probably telling him outside, as they race side by side, lap after lap.
And I think we're at a point too now where the track has finally started drying up. And you don't see Dave Lund as we're going to come up with 10 laps to go when he comes across the line next time by. But Dave Lund isn't getting away with this one like he did in the first part of it.
No, and this is the second event tonight, going back to the Dawson-Cox race, where the leader drove off, left everybody, and then they have a yellow, and whatever happens, the tires cool down, pressures change, they miss the setup a little bit, whatever, but all of a sudden they're not quite so dominant as they were early on.
Still a great battle shaping up on that second spot with Mark Hubbard in the 41, just a little bit out in front of the number 1 car of Ted Lindgren. Lindgren down on the bottom. See if he can take that tight turn into turn number 3 if he doesn't try and push Hubbard up the track a little bit. And Hubbard hangs in there tough. It just stays right in that middle groove. Nice job.
And, you know, Lindgren's thinking, God, I got him on the outside. I mean, please, just go away. And his spotter keeps saying, outside, outside, outside. And Lindgren's thinking, no, because he wants to push up out of that corner, let that car run as it comes down the straightaway. Those guys are doing a great job.
I always find it interesting, too. I wonder what a difference it would be if they were just a swap. If you were to put Hubbard down on the inside, Lindgren up on the outside. Because there are some cars that just don't do well when they're racing somebody on the outside.
And that can be a driver problem, too. It's easier to be fast on the bottom than it is on the outside. It's just a fact of life. It's kind of like when you go into a turn on the freeway and that car inside on your left side turns first, and then you turn. You kind of look over and you make sure that car's not going too far out, not going to drive you up on the sidewalk or whatever. That's kind of that same thing. And right now, Lindgren has a little bit of breathing room in that second spot, but still hanging tough on the rear bumper of that 28 car of Dave Lund's.
You know, you have people, and you've had them just as much as I have over the years, the people that say, how can you sit there and just watch cars go around in a circle for this many laps? When you see, and you keep an eye out, and see just what happened the lap prior when Lindgren was able to get underneath Hubbard and get away from him, was because Hubbard just had a little bit of a twitch in going into turn number 1. And that's why we sit here and watch these things, and it doesn't seem like it's a real little detail type thing, but it's what makes this fascinating to do, to be a part of.
I watch race cars and I see ballet. Yeah. I see poetry in motion or whatever. And people look at me like I'm great. Well, I am, but you're right. You look for those subtle moves, and here's Hubbard digging back on that outside again. taking the
There it was
long
again.
way around.
Yeah.
You know, that back end slid out just a little bit, but he drives it deep down in the corner, and he can do that. He can go in a little deeper. Lindgren has to be a little more careful because if he pushes up, gets in the door of the 41 car, it may not work out very well with just one lap to go.
White flag out, expertly thrown by John Peterson, I might add, for Dave Lund as he is halfway down the backstretch heading into turn number 3. The two gentlemen behind him,
Who's
the
gonna
one
win
of
it?
Lindgren, the 41 of Hubbard. Who's going to get it as they come across? Way to go, Dave and Ted Lindgren, with a beautiful move coming out in the bottom of turn number 4. Will take that second spot, and the 41 of Mark Hubbard will come into the third spot. So way to go, Dave. Nice job. And we'll bring him up. Tom is going to be talking to him down at our Angel of the Winds platform here coming up in just a few seconds. Let's hear what they have to say.
Mr. Dave Lund. Davey, talk a little bit about tonight. Do you have fun out there?
Yeah, we always have fun out there. It's a good night.
We gonna see you every Saturday night. Is this maybe step one to winning that championship?
Oh, we'll see. Sometimes I lose interest in the middle of the year, so we'll see how long it lasts.
And talk about some of the people who make this all possible for you.
All my buddies, my crew, Doug and Bruce, and Mom and Denise, and Cheyenne Scared.
How about a big round of applause, Davey Lund, Ted Lindgren. Ted, you must have brought all your fans with you tonight.
I got everybody here. Here we go.
So Ted, last year you started off, you said the car looked good, but it was kind of evil. It looks like you got a much better start to 2021 season.
Well, I got somebody else on board this year. I don't know where she's at, but Vanessa is here. She's promotions with Emerald City, Harley. Everybody likes Harley, don't they? Yeah. Anyway, we made some changes. We represent the number 1 with Harley came on board. Pretty special. It's really nice.
And any other sponsors?
Of course, we got my company, American Image, AIHair.com. We do hair restoration. With me from the start, John Sass with Amsoil, Performance Loop Synthetics, right to your door. And a new one, EF65 to hand cleaner. Okay, it's best stuff ever. If you guys ever try it.
You know, I said this earlier tonight. You did it the right way. You win the championship, take your number off, put that number 1 on there. Great job. Ted Lindgren.
Can I say one more thing? I gotta thank my crew. We had a hard night to start with. Battle and Stagger, Battle and Tires. We put it together. She's not perfect. I'll make this quick. But thank you, Alan, Jimmy, Aaron, Shane, my lovely wife Paula's here. Everybody's here to enjoy this with me. I wish we got number 1, but we'll take it. Thank you, David.
Ted Lindgren. Mark, that had to be a lot of fun. I mean, you've done a lot of racing, but that's how you do it right.
Yeah, just getting on the outside, running hard, having a good time. That caution really killed us. I think we had a tire equalized, and the stagger just wasn't right. I couldn't get off the corner.
So tell us about the people who make this all possible.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Let's Sack Cancer for Kids, Interstate Batteries, Rick Chevron, Rick's Tire and Service, Bullseye Auto Glass. We couldn't do it without them.
All right, your third place finisher, Mark Hubbard.